Okay, I'd like to call the property service meeting to order. First, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're on the Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Next is approval of the agenda. Moved by Peter, second by Mary Elliott, Councillor Elliott. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Count by nay. Motion carried. Is there any emergency resolutions? Is there any emergency resolutions? One more time. Any emergency resolutions? Hearing none, we'll move on. Any errors, omissions, corrections to the minutes of March 18th? Councillor Boyles.
I guess it was pointed out to me that 7B says Smeltbrook instead of Loudenbrook. I guess it should be Loudenbrook there.
Okay. Make that change. Is there any other errors, omissions, or corrections to the minutes? Any other errors, omissions, or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on. Correspondence, we'll consider those approved. Moving on, correspondence not requiring action. 3 of them there. Anybody got anything they want to say on that? Seeing none? Oh, Warden Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a bit slow on the draw there. Didn't realize we were moving down as quick as we were. Just a couple of comments on the new service exchange agreement. I think most municipalities, and I think including ours, were quite happy with the new service exchange agreement. Although we will, I understand, lose some on the equalization, but not until 5 years. There's 5 years that it'll stay the same. And then after that, depending on what our numbers are, we probably stand to lose some on that. But in the meantime, we did gain on not having to pay the provincial share on the housing and on the prison. Those are being completely taken over, and I think there might have been another one. But there was probably more gains for us than there was losses. So it's good from that point of view. I think we have to be very careful of Schedule A. Schedule A is what we couldn't reach agreement on or needed more discussion. So there's that roads one is still there. This council was unanimously, I think, against. We were okay with the towns getting some assistance on the routes that run right through their town. But the other half, of course, was for us to continue to take over more and more of the provincial responsibility for roads. So I think we have to be careful, and there's some other things in Schedule A too, I think that we have to be careful of. So I think as much as it's good news right now, I think there's a lot of work to be done yet on some of the tough ones that were put off. So that's just some comments I wanted to make here tonight, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just on the letter from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing introducing the emergency management legislation for the new Department of Emergency Management. Just a couple things to note on this. I'm pleased to see that the Vulnerable Persons Registry was mentioned as part of this work, and it's a priority of this council as well as the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities public safety committees looking into this whole issue around a VVPR. I think there's a lot of work here there's a lot of heavy lifting for volunteers in this department, and it's going to require a lot of local inputs from around the province to make sure this Nova Scotia Guard works, and I'm looking forward to seeing the progress that will be made over the summer.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll move on. Next, we're going to have a presentation by Tim Webster for a potential partnership on Research Nova Scotia proposal. Tim's virtual there, and welcome, Tim. Can you hear us? Are you on mute? You can, Tim, just, are you on mute? No? Just one sec, we'll see if we can get your voice. Just bear with us there. Is that a beer? Just one sec, Tim.
A lovely day here in the valley, hopefully up in Pictou.
Sort of, yeah.
I could call in to a number if you have a speakerphone that would be perhaps sync up between the two of us.
Try one thing here, Brian.
Okay.
Just give us one more minute, okay, Tim?
Yep, no, I've got lots of time, no problem.
There.
I hear a little feedback. Your camera's working again?
There, we got you now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just give us 1 second here. We'll get Brian back to his chair. Sorry.
Solving the technical issue there.
Sorry for the technical issue, yes. Tim, during your presentation, would you want people to stop you during it to ask questions or wait till the end?
Well, I was told I had 10 minutes, so maybe wait to the end. I'll try to move through this stuff rather rapidly, and
Okay.
And then at the end, I don't have that many slides, so if there's a particular topic, we can go back to it very quickly, and Yeah, we'll go from there perhaps.
Okay, so
Okay?
you can go ahead
I'll
then.
share my screen. Okay. Okay, I hope you all see the title slide here with Research Nova Scotia's Focused Research Investment Fund. Yes?
Yes, yep.
Okay, so this is this is the proposal that I'm working on to put together, to put forward to Research Nova Scotia. And this is where I have asked the County of Pictou to partner with us early on in the proposal, ideally making a commitment of $20,000, and in return, you'll be top of the list for my attention and our research efforts for all of these things we're putting forward. Even though the proposal that I wrote you really described coastal erosion as a main focus. But I'm hoping that you'll see benefit in all of these aspects. So the title of the proposal currently is Earth, Water, and Fire. Some of you remember a band called Earth, Wind, and Fire, but it's close. Geospatial analytic solutions for climate vulnerability effects. And I'll just take you through. So really, I'm honing in on Research Scotia's mission statement here on climate adaptation and resiliency, with some minor looking at the bioeconomy, and this is really potentially for coastal development of aquaculture. And then over on the far right here, with regards to state bodies, and that's really about, people building in smart places where they're not putting themselves at risk. I've narrowed the proposal down from a version that was in the document sent to you folks to 4 main pillars. 2 of them dealing with flooding. One of them is related to coastal flooding, and there are a variety of bullets here that perhaps I'll move through the presentation, because each of these has a few slides to talk about what we're talking about here. But coastal flooding, we want to do work in that regard. River flooding, we want to do work in that regard, looking at trying to predict river flooding. Pardon me?
Nope.
Okay. And then the third pillar being coastal erosion. And probably a little bit looking at photographs to come up with historical rates of erosion, and then through the use of drones and other types of higher resolution survey equipment, start capturing any erosion events that take place. We'll do that through something called this geoforensic team, where we'll go out after an event, say like Fiona, and then survey how high the water got, what the actual erosion was before and after. And as we start building up this information, we hope to use things like machine learning and an artificial intelligence to try to give us a handle on predicting how much erosion we might expect for a given storm event, for a given coastal morphology. So is it a mud bank versus a cliff versus a sand dune, etc. And of course, we want to work with municipalities to take those data and help you develop bylaws and improve land use planning and so forth. The last pillar is looking at wildfires. And we're working with a company, an indigenous-owned company called 3D Wave, where they currently have a system where they've adopted essentially information from a Canadian forest called Proximity, downscale that to their, and we want to take and improve their product to better predict the movement of fire, as well develop some maps that show communities at risk of wildfires related to the fuel that surrounds them. Is there any kind of a buffer zone, and so forth. So if I start to expand these pillars, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this website, but it's a website we developed called the Emergency Coastal Flooding Decision Support System. What we do is, and we want to expand this province-wide and enhance it. Right now, we get a storm surge warning from Environment Canada every 10 days. We marry that prediction with the tide, and then we convert that from a tide table reference into a map reference with these LiDAR data, And for example, here was the prediction a day before Fiona made landfall. We saw Fiona 10 days out, but really the date, the models really were rather, a few days before Fiona. What this showed us, this is, by the way, this is the predicted orange, the water level of the tide and surge bubble. What this showed us, as we move around on this chart, the map also updates. And we can do some things where we then highlight all of the roads that are going to be inundated, any of this critical infrastructure, hospital, ambulance, fire, seniors' homes, etc. And this really proved to be a very useful tool leading up to Fiona and gave us a good sense of how high we were going to expect the water. A 2-meter storm surge was one of the highest surges we've ever seen predicted. We actually measured a surge at skip than it would have. What we can also do is we have the survey and under the water as well. Our deck scaling to the hydrodynamic model. So not only does it get these little vectors, these show you speed. For example, we're going to inundate over this road here at Cal Bay, and you'll see the current speed. So this will allow us to produce hazard maps with not only water level, water velocity. It's one thing to a meter of standing, it's another meter of water that is moving rapidly. The danger for us. Next topic was to using. So this little graphic shows us, for example, after a rain event ever reacts, and then another rain event reacts. We want to start using weather prediction system and try to predict. Well, that's one thing to understand what the flow will be.
Tim?
But then we want to actually visualize that river and to see how that river is going to rise and fall. Very similar to what we've done with the coastal work.
Tim?
Now, we've already
Hey, Tim?
flowed 2 rivers in Pictou County, Middle River and East River, and actually 3 rivers now that I think about it. This is River John. And this is a metric LiDAR circuit. It didn't really do it justice. We're
Tim?
actually able to,
Tim? Can you hang on a second?
and it can provide better information in terms of flood modeling and also other things like fish habitat. He shows the water surface in Middle River, Cape Breton, and this is the river back. You can see all of the deep and so on through that. So we really want to enhance our river prediction system as a second fish and fish passage.
Tim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you turn off your camera? It seems they might think it's interfering with the with your voice, okay?
Okay. The camera is off. Let's hope we're not getting that feedback. Yeah, at first I wasn't sure if everybody be okay.
Yeah.
But hopefully this will behave itself better.
Okay, try that.
Yeah, it's off now, and let's see how it goes. Here's the one that I think is perhaps, was of greatest interest to the county before the initiation of this. Map and predict coastal erosion and help define land use planning bylaws. So on the bottom is just a little example of, before Fiona and after Fiona. We have some more dramatic examples. How do we measure erosion? We can do it with GPS surveys. We can do it with laser scanning on vertical surfaces. We can do it with mobile mapping. Now we're really using drones a lot. The positioning of the drones have become very precise. We actually have 2 LiDAR units we can mount on a drone to really measure detailed elevation. Of course, from a historic point, we would use for stainless. And then, of course, we have topographic LiDAR covering the whole province. and we want to continue to collect this topobathymetric LiDAR to measure change, and satellite imagery is becoming a high enough resolution. There's two ways we can measure erosion. The historic method, the classical method, would be to use a historic aerial photo. We digitize the coastline. We go to a later date. We digitize the coastline. We then measure the shift in coastline between the two time periods. At the distance divided by the difference in time will give us a rate of erosion. Of course, this gives us a very average number. Typically, our photos are on the order of decades. And of course, erosion is not constant, but rather is episodic. The newer way to do it, the more modern approach, is to use these digital elevation models. That's what DEM stands for. So here you can see there's some armor stone, and then we have a mud bank. So this is an elevation model before a storm, and then this is after the storm. What we can then do is subtract the two elevation models, difference of DEMs, DOD, and not only can we see how far the coastline has moved back, the recession, the horizontal movement, but we can actually estimate how much volume of material has been removed. In this case, 1,800 cubic meters of material has been removed along a 50-meter section. What we want to do is distribute these water level sensors around the coast and perhaps expand the weather stations. So now we would know what the wind conditions were, what the precipitation was, what the barometric pressure was for a given event. We also would have the water level, and then when we get out there and survey, we would actually have a high water mark as well, and be able to start quantifying erosion versus the actual storm characteristics. And of course, it's going to be different depending on the type of coastline. In this case, this is a mud bank compared to, say, the armoring, and a little further down the coast would be a cliff. This is this company 3D Waves interface. They've essentially built the system for some of the indigenous communities around the province. Right now, you can only change the wind speed and direction. These other parameters are related to the fuel and so on. We want to enhance that tool. We take say 3 or 4 to 5 days lead time if a fire breaks out to understand how that fire is going to behave over the next. We may have not much movement of fire, and it picks up. There's going to oops, right. It sounds like I'm breaking up quite a bit.
Yes, you are, Tim.
I'm sorry about that. I perhaps could record the presentation, keep it coherent and clear for you. There's something that goes across all these pillars, which is to like we call it the geoterrain. So after a storm event, to get out there and the effects of the so-called these regions of Hurricane Fiona leading up to it. And afterwards. And here you can see the erosion of that bank we were just looking at in view. Instead of a top-down view, a perspective view. And on the far right, you can see how much material. You really get 100 cubic meters of material from a section. The other example would be river flooding. The me in West Hants, and unfortunately this home is the home where the 4 people lived that got in their vehicle, but unfortunately the water swept that vehicle away, and these were the 4 fatalities. Part of what we want to also do is called odd statistics. You may have examined this in the province, the house map. Call this projected worth flood by 2100. And here is the area looking at, and tell you that basically came to option. We've generated a map very similar to what the province has done here, and that's a map of 3.1 meters of elevation. So actually would have been, if it had a 1 meter wave run up. So 1 meter on top of the wave, 1 meter. Essentially the provincial map is only 20 centimeters lower than what Fiona produced. So therefore, I think that is a very conservative map and an underestimate of what the worst case flooding be in 2100. Now, not that people who made the map did anything wrong. The reason is, in my opinion, that they are using out-of-date storm surge period water level and are underestimates because of the way they were produced. And I could into that in more detail, but I'm short.
Okay.
The pillars, see the end users. As we're going to from federal government departments, provincial departments, and reason. In result of this funded, we'll have hush moment code. Prove climate change will grow. We'll be able to track extreme events at us improving following our reverse. We can answer the question. It's getting worse.
Yeah. Tim, would you be able to record your presentation and send it to our CAO, and he'll distribute amongst the councillors?
I certainly can do that. Yes.
Okay. No, your presentation was really broken up, and we got bits and pieces of it, but we never got the full aspect of what you're asking there, what you're doing. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. That's too bad. Essentially, maybe I'll shut my. I'll quit sharing the screen. That might lighten a little
might
bit
help.
Of the,
yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully my voice is not going to be broken up at this stage here. Essentially, I'm putting together a fairly sophisticated pool. I'm the research over $8 million. And of course, so they want to know what they're buying. And so it helps us from the top things. And this is what I'm asking Pictou County for the qualities with the $20,000 commitment. And I would certainly see that you'll get your money.
Okay.
But I hear that I am still chopping a bit. So what I'll do is record, and then I'll put a drive that can be used.
Yes, if you would mind, so we'll be able to get the full presentation. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Just 1 second, Tim.
I believe that you have a deadline to have this in by April 29th. So do we need to know, we need to have your presentation on file or whatever so we can discuss it and make that decision, because you need to know or have your proposal. You're competing for research money with others who are putting this in. That's my only concern, is that we have to discuss this in time to make that decision.
Yes, you are correct.
So,
I will get it. I get off the line with you folks. I'll re-record it and send links.
okay, that would be great.
I guess I'll send.
Logan, would you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to point out that I attended a local government working group meeting about 2 weeks ago in which Tim presented the same information. And I think the takeaway, a big part of the takeaway from the presentation that I had taken was how incredibly accurate their modeling was. When you go back and you look at the water level, say for example during Fiona, that it's incredibly accurate, and that's juxtaposed against the accuracy of the provincial information to date. So it's proof of concept, and I think that was a big takeaway that I had taken the other day. So as we look for coastal protection and these increasing storms, we can't rely on historical information. We have to look at forward-thinking modeling. So I just wanted to throw that in, since Tim had given I think, very much similar presentation there to our Green Shores Local Government Working Group meeting a couple weeks ago. So thank you, Tim, and that's all. Yep.
Could you hear that, Tim?
Yeah,
Yep.
I did.
Okay. If you could send that presentation, and then are we meeting before the 29th, or is it 29th?
Yeah, 29th at 1 o'clock is when the proposal is due. Yeah.
What's that? We'll call a special meeting for, okay. If you could send that to us, we'll have an answer back to you before the 29th. Okay?
Okay, well, thank you. So,
Yeah.
we'll be in touch.
No, sounds great. Thanks very much, Tim. Yep. Okay, we're moving on. Reports not requiring a motion. The Public Works and Development Officers report. Questions on that? Councillor Boyles?
Yes, just wondering, on Hillside there, on the pumping station and that, where are we at with that? What are we doing? Where are we going with it?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Boyles, for the question. We've advanced a project for the upstream improvements to the overall system, with the idea of reducing the amount of flow that's coming uphill and getting into the lift station. And with those improvements, that will inform us as to whether or not we need to do lift station improvements or a full lift station replacement.
So, if may, be just wondering there, the metering off the water flow and stuff like that is going to be coming in, right? So we got all these pumper trucks and everything that are, are we going to start being charged like really big rates because of these metering systems?
Great question, and again, through you, Mr. Chair. In theory, we would be, and I think that was partially accounted for in the new funding model with Pictou County Shared Services Authority. With the reduction of the flow that we're going to have through these, we expect to have through these improvements that we're going to do, and the new flow meter that we're going to be putting on the system, which is one of the requirements from Pictou County Shared Services Authority, I would expect for it to be lower and it to be in line with what we'd expect for any other area in the county that's receiving flow. So yeah, in theory, if we had flow meters on it right now, we'd be paying more, and that's part of the reason I believe that Pictou County Shared Services is charging us more. But with the reduced flow rates from these improvements and the accurate flow modeling data, we should see those costs come down again.
Where they were, always talking about moving the pump station, getting it, why don't they just do that? What's the problem with doing that?
Again, Mr. Chair, through you, it is still a possibility that we would replace it and possibly relocate it. But the idea right now is that if we have areas that we can improve upstream in the system for a lower cost, so things like making our manholes more watertight, picking some of them up out of ditches where they've been installed, that kind of thing, that we wouldn't necessarily have to do the same level of expensive replacements or repairs. That the hope is that what is required to improve for that lift station would be less because of these upstream improvements that we're going to make. So it might not mean that we have to relocate it. Still a possibility, but we're sort of working our way up from the source of the flow down to look at what the actual flows are going to be once we make those improvements.
Mr. Chair, one more quick question.
Yep.
There was a report made, phase one, and it come out. Was there ever a report that finalized everything, what's going on with that?
Yeah, we had a report completed by WSP Consultants last year, and that focused a lot more on the upstream portions, with the possibility of making, and it made some recommendations for the lift station and other aspects of the system, but the point was that we should make these first improvements first on the upstream portions of the system, and then they could make further recommendations downstream once we see what the upstream system is looking like when we make those improvements.
Can we get a copy of that report?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, moving on, Warden Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under the Blue Acre sidewalk design, it says that the concept design drawings were sent to the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works for review and were approved for detailed design. On another committee that or I'm there ad hoc, I guess, but well, I was told this was a secret and you weren't allowed to say anything, but I don't think it can be kept a secret if we're spending money on something that might backfire on us. So if Nova Scotia Department of Public Works has drawings that show that there's going to be 2 roundabouts, one on each side of the 104, that, are going to affect another project, and that's being looked at as to, whether that project should go ahead or not, then it appears that it's saying there that Nova Scotia Public Works, they were sent for review and were approved. Is there anything we, as a council, should know from Department of Public Works to be sure that if we were to put a sidewalk in there, that it wouldn't get dug up within a few years to put roundabouts in? So I don't follow where it says that they approved it, and if they want to say it's 10 or 20 years down the road, that's one thing, but I don't think that's what they're saying in the other room. So I'd like to get clarification from Department of Public Works whether there are any plans within, say, even the next 5 years to put in roundabouts in that area. I don't know, should we send a letter to get that information, or where do we get that information as to what their plans are?
I think just a phone call to the area manager
Would do it?
would do it, yeah.
Well, perhaps we
Just to
can
see.
instruct our CAO to do that so that we know. It's one thing to consider whether we should put a sidewalk in all kinds of different places, but another thing to have the proper information, I guess, before we make a decision and have it backfire.
There was talk about roundabouts in that area probably 5-6 years ago,
Yeah,
but nothing ever happened.
and if it's
Because they
not on
couldn't-
the plans,
Couldn't
then
buy
that's
the
fine.
property.
Yeah, but we should know for sure whether it is
Yeah,
or isn't, I think.
Just a phone call, I think. would be
Yeah,
sufficient.
so I would request then, I guess, that our CAO make that, or Mr. McDowell, somebody make that phone call and get some kind of confirmation before we go down the road any further on spending money.
Okay. Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Logan and Scottsburn, any idea on the time frame that might be back up? And did you get a police report yet?
Thank you for the question, again, through you, Mr. Chair. It's back up and running as of today. We actually got the electrical panel and we got the work lined up.
Okay.
The only thing we're waiting on before going back into operation is Nova Scotia Power. They were supposed to be there today, but I haven't gotten confirmation from staff yet that they were there today to do their inspections. So once they're able to do their inspection, we'll be good. I have not received the police report. I contacted the RCMP multiple times, visited them, and then they called me back and got my information and told me that they would be sending the information last week, and I still haven't received it, so it's on my to-do list to follow up with them again and see when that's coming. But all they're going to be providing us with is the policy information for the person who had the accident that we can then take to our insurance company and have them follow through.
So we will be pursuing through her insurance or
Yes.
the insurance
Yeah.
of that
And
vehicle?
yes, that's correct.
Yeah,
And
okay.
we're keeping the information on the cost of these repairs and generators and things like that we've needed in the meantime to be able to report on that too.
Thank you.
Okay, anything further? Seeing none, we'll move on. Development Officer, Counselor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just first of all, on the whole Blue Acres thing, they've been talking about roundabouts there for 20 years. Like, somebody throwing this out at the 11th hour, thinking that this is a possibility, when they've already explored this and there's no land there for a roundabout, is absolute insanity. So I would like to see the tender documents issued so we can get a response from contractors in a timely fashion to see if we can get a sidewalk through there. So that's all I'm going to say on that. I don't think we need to waste too much of our time on silliness like that. The community consultation meeting in Plymouth on April the 3rd for the new Valley View Villa or long-term care home that's going to be in Plymouth. It was a good, well-attended meeting, a lot of good discussion. I would say there's concern, but general support for the project. There's some issues around traffic flow, no shoulders on the road, and some other issues there and drainage issues is a big concern for the people there. And I have confidence in the design team that they're properly going to design that, because it looks like a nice, gentle field right now, but there's a lot of water that comes off that. So I would like to see if we can have some attention from our Public Works Department, and I talked to Logan about this, about doing some high-level drawings, I don't know, sort of to see what can be done to clean up that intersection at the intersection of River Road and East River East Side Road. It's a awkward intersection right now as it is, and with the added traffic, some thought needs to be put into that, plus some kind of way for pedestrians to get down that hill where the new home is. So that's the biggest thing that came out of that meeting that people have a great concern over. So anyway, if we can work on that, and I'll present it back to the community at my ratepayers meeting. Thank you.
Okay, anybody further? Seeing none, the Development Officer's report. Any questions? Seeing none, Emergency Services report. Counselor Boyles.
Yeah, Evan, I guess, you had some people up there today boarding up in Hillside, eh?
Yeah, they were up there to post the order today. I believe they boarded it up
Yeah.
Friday. But
Oh, did Friday was,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I got some calls on today. They said all these people, they just want to thank you very much. That's great. It's done. Thank you.
sure, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll move on. Fire Inspector's report. Nothing. Next is the Building Inspection report. Looking through her now. Next is Bylaw Officer's report. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on. We got none there. Motions of reconsideration. I don't think we have any of those. Community announcements. Councillor Walls.
It's more or less, I guess at the end of the meeting in Lanarkshire Fire Hall the other night there, the a gentleman come in, I guess, during that big storm that the fire chief, Bruce Young, went around and literally got this man back home and walked through the snow to break it down to get him in his house so you get his medication, you get home safely, and he presented him with a certificate, and I thought there's just something the council should know.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, anybody else? Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, the Plymouth Fire Department's having a breakfast this Saturday morning. There'll be some information on Facebook there that we can gather for it. I think it's $10 a plate, so they always put on a good scoff for everybody. Start your weekend right.
Councillor Butler.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I want to remind people of the pancake sausage breakfast in Kensieville on Saturday, the 27th of April. And as well on May the 5th, that's a Sunday, a salmon supper at Lismore from 4 to 6.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, just remember tomorrow night is volunteer reception at the Wellness Center. I think it starts at 6:30, so councillors, if you, huh? Sorry? Oh, yes. Yeah. Country music. Okay, so hope to see everybody there. Nothing further, I'll call the meeting adjourned.
All right, everyone, I'll call the Financial Services meeting to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. First, I'll have the approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Boyles, seconded by Councillor Turner. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. And next, we have emergency resolutions. Are there any emergency resolutions this evening? Any emergency resolutions? Councillor Boyles.
I don't know if it's looked at as emergency resolution, but I got a call tonight, like what we went on, the school buses and that, and the kids not getting to schools. I get calls tonight like you wouldn't believe, and people turn around are really upset about what's going on, and they were just wondering if we could do something as a council that if they were opening the school, say at 7:30 in the morning, so if they got to go to work, they could drop off kids. So I don't know if we can do anything about that or not.
Go ahead, Warden Parker.
I think we lost that battle a long time ago when we lost school boards. The CCRSB or whatever it is now, I don't think that's the right initials, but they make those decisions now. We don't. And people, it's the same as provincial roads versus municipal roads. People are confused and they think that we're able to change something. But that change has to come at the CCRCE, I think it is now, at that level. And because there's no elected people at that level anymore, the school boards were wiped out in 17, I think, there's nobody for people to call. So therefore they call you or me or whatever as counselors wanting us to fix it. It's really something that has to be fixed at really the provincial level, because the province took over at that point, and everybody that works in those offices now are not elected people. They're not accountable. They're responsible to the provincial government. So the provincial government has the ability to fix this problem, but they're going to have to spend a lot of money to do it. I think we need to send a message very clearly to our public that we are not the body that can change this problem or a number of other problems in the school system unless they bring school boards back someday, so there's somebody that's accountable to the people. So I wish we could, but I know we don't have any control over it whatsoever. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Warden Parker. And we did send a letter, I believe, I don't know if the letter's been sent yet or not, to the provincial Government Education, am I right? Voicing our concerns last meeting, so, yeah. Are you satisfied with that, Counselor Boyles?
Oh, yeah, just thought of
Okay, perfect. Okay, moving on. Is there any errors or omissions, corrections to the minutes of March 18th? Any errors, omissions, corrections to the minutes of March 18th? Any errors, omissions, corrections to the minutes of March 18th? Seeing none, we will consider those minutes approved. Moving on, reports not requiring a motion. First, we have the communication report for the month of March. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move along to recreation. Any questions or comments on the recreation report? Councillor Thompson.
Just on Pictou County minor hockey, we provided a grant of $7,800. I think that's more than 1 year, is that correct? Or is that just 1 year? Is there a way we can get a breakdown of enrollment in the program? Like we were tracking that for a time, and I'm trying to get a sense of how many kids are playing hockey now, compared to, like, say 5, 10 years ago. So if there's some way I can get those numbers, that'd be much appreciated. Thank you.
Yep, no, hockey's busy in Pictou County, that's for sure. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll move along. Warden's report. Questions or comments for the warden? Go ahead, Warden Parker.
If there's no questions, I have a couple of comments, mostly directed around mental health and mental health of our youth. So over the past month, and I'm not sure, some of it might have actually been into this month, I think, 2 significant announcements for our youth in Pictou County, and there's many of them in trouble, and we lose some every week because they just can't take it anymore. And so the first, we had I guess it was at the AGM of, no, I can't think of the name, at the Aberdeen Health Foundation. So it was announced this FORBOW, F-O-R-B-O-W program that's for young people, and it's particularly for families. So, and you don't need a diagnosis from a doctor or anybody. You can go directly in to the, I think it's in that building in behind where Central Supplies used to be, one of those buildings that's for mental health in there. So if you know any families in your area that a young person, doesn't matter how young they are, you know, that needs some help, and the parents are frustrated and don't know where to turn, this FORBOW is a doctor who's already been running this program for quite a while in Halifax. This is the first area outside of Halifax that he's moved this practice to. And they're very high on it at the hospital right now, for sure, because they can't really do anything at the hospital to help you. But this program, and then the second one, I attended the announcement of it, I guess it was last week. I have it written down so I won't forget. It's IYS, Integrated Youth Services. So there's 7 locations in the province that were picked to offer this service, and Pictou County was one of them. And it's being led by Big Brothers Big Sisters. I believe the Y is helping, and 2 or 3 other bodies within this county. They wanted to have groups running it that are already here on the ground and know people. But this is another one that can take youth right up to age 25. So sometimes young people get ruled out when they're 19 or whatever. So this is another great opportunity for, they'll not only deal with mental health, but other problems that young people are having. They just said, come in and we'll help you. So that's 2 that we didn't have before. And there's a lot of parents in this county that just exasperated where to turn when their young people get off track, or the young people themselves are exasperated. And on top of that, I did hear the announcement tonight, and be coming in the budget tomorrow, that there's $500 million total for the country, mind you, but going toward youth mental health. So hopefully with these 2 new ones starting, that money coming, we're going to be able to help some of our young people. It's very important now to get that message out, I think, that there is something. People have almost given up on there being anything. So later on, not later on this month, early next month, I think May 4th is the proposed date right now. At the last meeting we had with the health people at Northern Zone and the Aberdeen Hospital, they felt the best thing we could do right now to help people in crisis mental health. We've talked about a lot of things that they could change at the hospital, and they have changed a lot of them, but they want to have a meeting with all counselors in Pictou County. And it's proposed right now for May the 4th, and I haven't heard of a location yet. But some councils want them to come to their particular council, but we're starting with this larger one because we're tying up a lot of people from the health authority at one time. It will be an evening meeting. We told them that half of our councilors wouldn't be able to attend if it was a daytime meeting. So it will be in the evening, and it will be probably May 4th, so if you can mark that into your calendars. And this will be a chance to hear directly from the people that are at the controls of mental health in the Northern Zone, what they're doing different, and they want us as counselors to get this out to the public. That's their connection with us, is that we can help better. They can do a lot, but they need us to help get the message out. So there's a lot of good things happening on the mental health front, but they're only good if people know about them. And so I encourage everybody, I'll hopefully get information this week and confirm that May 4th date along with the location. And just keep in mind that if anybody approaches you in your area, there are avenues available for help, especially for young people. And a lot of the people that we lose are young people in the first half of their life or whatever, and not need it sometimes. We won't prevent them all, but maybe we can prevent some. So I just wanted to pass that information along, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you very much. That was very informative. So we'll look forward to hearing more about that meeting and tentatively pencil in that in our calendars. Go ahead, Councillor Boyles.
I just wanted to know, Warden, can you tell us again where that was, the first one?
You just told me that May 4th was a Saturday, so I didn't let you get that. I'll send you the right date anyway.
Okay.
You want to know the name of the first one?
The first one, yeah.
Yeah, Forbo, F-O-R.
Whereabouts is it located?
What do they call that building where Wranglers used to be, in that building there? I think it's the mental health building.
Okay.
Just before you get to the old, I call it Kmart, is that Central Supplies came out? That's where they're located at. The IYS, I'm going to get your tongue around, Integrated Youth Services is being run by Big Brothers Big Sisters. So you just have to get a hold of them wherever they're off. I knew where it used to be, but I'm not sure where it is now. But they're heading this up, and the names, Margie, who's head of Big Brothers?
Walsh.
Grant Walsh, yeah. She was there to accept. Nobody knew who was going to get these locations. And so there was a huge crowd at the Wellness Center that day from all over the province, because there was groups there from different areas of the province hoping that they were going to get, and some did, a couple in Cape Breton, a couple in Halifax, and a couple more spread around the province, but fortunately Pictou County did get one of them.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just on the new library in the cost center, how's that? Is that on schedule, and when do they think that it'll be up and running?
At the last session that we had, and Councillor Wadden was there as well, I believe, was that the tour? You were there at the tour. That was the last session we had, I think. It did run behind some in the wintertime. So I think the DeCoste says they're going to have shows 1st September. That's the absolute deadline. Now they're going to open them both at once, the library and the DeCoste. It was going to be separate. They were going to open the DeCoste earlier, but they decided it was not going to work right. So I think things are on track now. Most of it will be done by midsummer, but they wanted to make sure everything was in place before they had the first show. So I think by the end of June, mid-July somewhere, a lot of it will be done. That's the prediction right now.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on the warden's report? All right, seeing none, we'll move along to taxes receivable report. See that we started off our month balance at $3,658,338.96. And we finished at $3,285,840.49. So, I don't know, considerable amount, but it's definitely moved in the right direction. Comments or questions on the taxes receivable report? Do you want to give I think the last meeting we talked about the letters. Do we have any update on those? No, okay.
Anybody that, during the month of March, that received a letter that didn't, I guess, enter into an agreement, those properties have been sent off for title search, so.
Okay, perfect. So we're making some headway with that. Counselor Boyles?
Is there a tax sale in the wind for the county, or?
Yeah, the letters, the ones that have been sent for title search, those will be the ones that are in the tax sale, the next tax sale.
Be, Brian?
It all depends how quickly we get the title searches back. We expect to have them back hopefully this month. So then there's advertising requirements, things of that nature, so.
Late spring?
I'd say 2 months after that, so yeah, we're pushing summer.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
right. Warden Parker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just looked up that date. It's Thursday, May the 2nd. And she suggested or Tuesday, May the 7th, but I think most councils got back. Some are very insistent on having them only come to their own council meeting, but explained why that didn't work as good. So it's Thursday, May the 2nd, but I will confirm the location.
Okay, thank you for that update. Any further questions or comments on taxes receivable report? All right, seeing none, we'll move ahead. D-transfer tax report. See there, this is the end, as we know, March is the end of our fiscal year. So we can see our totals for the year. And if you look back, we are into, I guess, our COVID time, beginning of COVID time net financials. Any questions or comments on the D-transfer tax report? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. Next, we have reports requiring a motion. So we have our accounts paid for the month of March 2024. Go ahead, Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is item number 21963. It's for Scotia Plumbing and Property Maintenance for February plowing the sidewalks. It seems to me to be excessive. It's $72,628.25. I understand we had a major storm, but if you look at some of the other costs for that storm at some of the other places, it doesn't seem to be in line with the $72,000. So is that simply a result of the storm of that cost?
Go ahead.
Point of order, Madam Chair, we should have it on the motion.
We should motion, yes. Should have a motion. Do you want to make that, you want to make a motion? We accept the accounts paid report? Yeah. Okay,
I'll second.
okay, it's been, second by Councillor Wadden. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you for the question. It's a huge number, but Scotia Plumbing and Property Maintenance is a company that we went to after the major storm to do the regular contracts that they have with us, but also to clear out all other areas, hydrants, lift stations, things like that. We had them working a lot day in, day out. It was a lot of work for days. They were, I can't remember exactly right off the top of my head, but they were in excess of a week, pretty well straight working for us. But it was primarily related to that, to our gigantic snowfall.
Yeah. Because some of the other costs that they had for Abercrombie Pumping Station was $448. Plowing, Plymouth and Abercrombie, $632. Hopewell Pumping Station, $4,200. And then they had 72,000, so it just looked to be quite excessive to me. That's all. Thank you.
Warden Parker?
It's an area I think this council has to look at some point is the cost of our snow removal and clearing. Certainly, we had that terrible snowstorm on the 1st of February, but I think at some point we have to look and decide whether we need some of our own equipment, especially when it comes to emergencies and having to get to certain people out in a hurry. But it may be coming the time where we have to consider, much like all our urban neighbors have their own equipment. It's, you know, as we add more sidewalks, add more roads, then it becomes even more so. But I'm also wondering, and perhaps Mr. McDowell can comment on this, do they not have a lot more places to do than some of these other ones that are smaller numbers? I thought Scotia Plumbing had a fair amount of our contracts.
Thank you. Scotia Plumbing does have a fair number of our contracts. But after the storm, we went out to contractors, multiple contractors, to try to get help in these areas that people couldn't get out and where hydrants were blocked and different things like that. And Scotia Plumbing was able to come right then and there, and they prioritized this. So they did their regular contracts with us, and then they did almost, I mean, we had another crew working on, start to work a little bit later in the week in the western half of the county. Scotia started working in the east and started working their way west, and then another company started working west and working their way east, but Scotia did the vast majority of. Robert Meyer was the other contractor that started in the west and started going east, but yeah, they took on far more than their standard contract, as did Robert Meyer for that matter, but not to the same extent.
Okay. I'd let you speak second. I'm just gonna go ahead. Go ahead, Deputy Warden Murray.
Just Robert was saying there, when we're going down with the invoices, it's very frustrating when you see the price of the cleaning the sidewalks and salt. And I think we're going to have a look at that and see if we can't put a better handle on controlling it somehow or other, because the prices are absolutely scary. So I know every time we look at the invoice, you know, holy sugar. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And that's just one of the costs that's going to be associated with cleaning it, because there's going to be a whole lot of repair needs to be done to it as well. There was tremendous damage done to the sidewalk in Abercrombie during the clearing of the snow. So there, in fact, it's to the point of dangerous in some areas of that sidewalk. So, and the median has been pretty well destroyed. So it's this not only the cost of the operating cost, but there's going to be costs associated with rebuilding that sidewalk. So, thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, any more questions or comments on the accounts paid for the month of March? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next we're going to move on to, I guess, business items or items requiring action. So the first one is 8A. It is the MOP switch interest rate. So this is previously our PACE program. The action needed tonight, council will decide whether to reduce the interest charges on the loan from the reserve to 0% for the upcoming fiscal year. So we should have a motion on the floor before we start. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair, that we reduce our interest rates to 0 for the time being.
Okay, we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Turner. All right, I'll open the floors up to questions and comments. Not all at once now. Go ahead.
So I had gone to the home show and talked to the people that are engaged in making our switch program work. And there hasn't been a whole lot of uptake. There's been some uptake on the program, but I think that we need more of an incentive, and this would be a financial incentive. So I'm fully in favor of reducing this to 0% because we need more people to participate in the program, and this is one way to have it done. So, and I'm not sure what the impact will be on our finances, but I'm sure it's not going to break the bank. So, anyway, I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay. Warden Parker?
I agree with Councillor Turner that we need to do something to try and boost this a little. Unfortunately, when ours came out, it was just at the same time the interest rates were taken off. And so even though people see an opportunity and a fair number have put in, but they haven't followed that up right now, and I think they're waiting for the interest rate to go down before they follow up. So by doing this, we can kind of get ahead of waiting for the interest rates to go down. That might be another 6 months. And that might help more people that need to get these things done, but the cost just got too high when the interest rates went up around 8% or whatever. So I think it's worth the gamble, and I think it was recommended to, I know it was recommended to us, by the people who run the program, that might be what we need to get ahead of this interest rate thing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any other final questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Okay, motion carried.
Madam Chair, just want to make sure that it's 24, 25, the fiscal year in that motion. I don't know if it was. That's the recommendation. That's only for 1 year.
Yes, is that correct? Yes?
I made the motion, so it is correct.
And just on costs, the maximum you would lose, 3% on 250,000. So like $7,000 for a full year would be the interest loss. Give or take a few dollars.
Okay, and next we're going to move on to 8B, which is the confirmation letter for long-term debt internet project borrowing. So we see here that we need action, and our action council will decide if the municipality will commit to a 3-year debenture at an interest rate not exceeding 6.5% for the internet project. Just as you know, we passed a temporary borrowing resolution last fall, last fall? Yep, of $28,047,000, and what we want to do is shift that from short-term debt to long-term debt. Kind of a over options? Exactly it, yeah. Okay, we have a motion on the floor, please. Go ahead. You okay? It's been moved by Deputy Warden Murray that we approve from short-term to long-term debt. Do you have a seconder for that motion? Okay, moved by, or seconded by Councillor Turner. I'll open the floor up to questions and comments. Seeing if any. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Butler.
Madam Chair, we seem to be at the peak of interest rates at the moment, and a suggestion that they will start falling in the months ahead. Should we wait until perhaps we get a more favorable rate?
Okay.
The plan is to do a 3-year kind of debenture. Rates will, indications are the reduction of rates may not happen quite as fast. As the memo says, last week the U.S. Basically their inflation rates were much higher. So the original forecast was that we would already see some rate reductions, that they would happen in the first quarter. That now could be late fall before you see the first change. So it won't materially, the rates aren't going to drop in the next year significant, but over the next 3 years they'll kind of slide back probably to where they were. The reason for the 3-year as well is basically at the end of the 3 years project's complete, then we can consolidate the debt all into one debenture and maximize everything at the rate. So the recommendation that came from the business unit was to basically go for a 3-year rate. We do have this money kind of sitting at higher interest rates right now, short term, so we will save by transferring it over to Municipal Finance Corp. Like right now, we're probably at about 6%, 6.5%. So last year's rates were 5.23 when they went to market in the fall, so we will save some money by doing it now, so.
Okay. That's your question? Yes. Okay, perfect. Any other further questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Moving on to 8C, Pictou County Partnership amending agreement. Agreements have been made. As we're aware, we are in an intermunicipal agreement with Pictou Landing First Nation as well as the other municipalities in the county, in Pictou County. So this is amending that initial agreement. There's, I guess, 3 amendments here. The first amendment is for listed under 1, which is the participating municipalities renew the partnership for an additional term of 5 fiscal years, beginning April 1st, 2024, and ending March 31st, 2029. A municipality may not withdraw from the partnership at any point during this renewed term. The participating municipalities may renew the partnership for such additional term or terms as they may agree. So that's a change. It's kind of, it's extending the agreement. The second is paragraph 5A of the agreement shall be deleted in its entirety and replaced with the following. It is anticipated that the participating municipalities in the province will enter into a contribution agreement with the partnership to establish the level of funding that the participating municipalities on the one hand and the province on the other will provide to the partnership on an annual basis. And 3, the paragraph 6A of the agreement shall be deleted in its entirety and replaced with the following. The amount of revenue that will be received by the partnership for the fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2024 shall be $250,000. For each subsequent fiscal year, the amount of revenue received by the partnership shall increase by 2% from the previous fiscal year. So those are the 3 changes in the document. Put a motion on the floor, please.
I will move that we accept this new amended agreement with the Pictou County Partnership.
Okay, it's been moved. Seconded by Councillor Palmer. Open the floor up to questions and comments. Go ahead, Warden Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I've been representing our municipality there for the last several months at the LOC, and the main job of the LOC is to bring back to our councils whatever's taking place. So I'm glad that's on here tonight to let you know what's taking place with this one. The big deal here is that all 7, I should say, units agreed to stay in this group, Pictou County Partnership, which was our REN, for another 5 full years, right through to 2029. And that's really important because in the past on economic development in this county, we've had trouble keeping people in a group. After a few years, one group or another would decide we're not getting enough, so we're leaving. And so there is a success story here that we got through the first 5 years. I think we had a temporary 1 year last year, and now we're into another 5 years with all units agreeing that is still a very good thing for our county that we have economic development being looked after as a joint responsibility rather than individually. And there was some questions on the funding. When we first started out, we worked hard to get a formula for the funding that was fair to everybody or felt to be fair to everybody. So there is a set dollar amount for each unit, and then it's by population. Some would like to go all by population, which wouldn't be necessarily so good for us. But anyway, we agreed to keep that, but the problem was with the province. When we put more money in last year, the original agreement called for the province to put an equal amount into what the units were putting in, and they backed away from that some. In fact, there was even a thought that maybe they were gonna disband the Wrens or whatever, but they didn't do that. But there's an agreement now on funding that we still put in under the same formula, but theirs is questionable every year. We don't have it down in stone, but they are contributing a lot of money, what they're saying, in other ways to the partnership, through various grants and whatnot. So that was, the two major things was to tie it up for another 5 years and to get the funding established so that it was consistent and all councils knew before their budgets were set how much money they were putting toward the partnership. So I just wanted to explain those a little bit as to why this is coming forward at this time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Warden Parker. Any other further comments or questions concerning the amendments to the agreement? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. All right, next we're moving on to the 2024 municipal election happening this October. I just have a point of clarification here before we begin, if you wouldn't mind, Brian. I'm confused as to why we have an advanced poll date if we're doing all electronic voting. And if it's open the 6th to the 19th, what is the purpose of October 12th?
So the purpose of the advance poll is that it gives another date where if somebody requires assistance, they can go to a central location and similar to what we did on election day, we had the kiosks. It is to provide those opportunities during a period and not tie it to just one day.
Okay, perfect. Okay, just wanted to be clear on that, just so because I was a little confused as well. Okay, perfect. So we'll start with the first one here. So it is dealing with the advance poll that Brian just spoke about there, that having an advance poll on October the 12th from noon to 8 p.m. as an advance poll date. Okay, it's moved by Councillor Bowles, seconded by moved by Councillor Butler, seconded by Councillor Boyles. Any questions or comments on that? Yes, go ahead, Deputy Warden Murray.
Madam Chair, will there be one in the east, one in the west, or just one?
I believe our plan is to have two locations to be determined at. The locations are determined by the returning officer. Council determines date. The returning officer will determine locations, but the plan is to have two in the rural.
Okay, perfect. All right, seeing no more questions or comments, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have the polling dates. Council to approve polling dates from noon on October 6th, 2024, to 7 p.m. on October 19th, 2024. So voting will be open between those two dates. Okay, moved by Deputy Warden Murray. I heard somebody second that. Okay, Councillor Wadden seconds that. Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Boyles. Use your mic, please.
I will be voting against the next two, and only because I don't think there should be electronic voting, so I will be voting against both.
Okay, thank you for your clarification. Go ahead, Warden Parker.
I probably should know the answer to this. I'm trying to remember. 4 years is a long time. Is that 24/7?
24/7, yes.
Yeah, okay, that was my question. I thought it was, but,
Starting at midnight on the
6th?
6th and
At
being
noon.
operational on
noon on the 6th.
Noon on the
7
6th.
p.m. on the 19th.
no 12 a.m.
Well, it says noon.
12.
It says noon on your, it says 12 a.m., sorry, you're right. It says 12 a.m. on this, but on our agenda, it says noon.
Yeah, it's 12 a.m.
So it's from, if you want to be the first one voting, get it in right at midnight.
Right.
Yay. Don't blame you at all, Sue Ann. No way. Okay, everybody clear on that? All right, let's call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. One nay. Motion carried. Next, we'll move on to the electronic vendor. So we've received, I guess, we put out a tender, and we've received two companies, two proposals for our electronic voting from IntelliVote and Simply Voting. And the recommendation is that the municipality of the County of Pictou select the IntelliVote systems as the vendor for the electronic voting platform. Have a motion? Okay, Councillor Wadden has moved that, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Any questions or comments on the vendor? Seeing none, oh, go ahead, Councillor Butler.
Madam Chair, who was the vendor during the last election?
IntelliVote.
Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. One nay. Motion carried. Okay, let's move along here. We'll move on to E. And this is recreation program funding requests. So we have 4 requests. The first one is from Fundy Highland Female Hockey in the amount of $1,525. The second is from Northern Nova United Soccer in the amount of $2,400. The third is Pictou County Athletics in the amount of $220, and Pictou County Invasion Volleyball at $320 for a grand total of $4,465. It's your pleasures, councillors. I just need a motion first. Okay, moved by Councillor Wadden, seconded by Councillor Palmer. Go ahead, Karen.
In the memo, it indicates that, first of all, I believe that that Cindy wants this approved from last year's budget. Am I correct?
Yes,
So
23.
You're approving these funds from last year's budget,
Okay.
which she does not have.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, is council approving these from a fund that she has no money in? Or is council approving these funds, reallocating funds from money, from accounts that she does have? Or are they not approving them at all?
What is your recommendation?
I don't have a recommendation.
There's not, it's the same, either or?
You're retroactively approving. The year's over.
Councillor Palmer?
Will reallocate it from funds that they have money in.
That would make
Okay.
sense. Is that what you want? Okay. I don't know.
Yes, so these came in, these were in time. So these are the program grants that you get the $25 or the whatever. The policy says that they don't require council approval. We would just pay them as they come in, you verify and you pay. There is a clause there that if you do not have the budget, then council needs to approve them. So what happened was Pictou County Minor Hockey, who has not been in there for 2 or 3 years, comes in, gets $7,800, basically wipes out the programming budget. So the policy then says that if these groups, and maybe it's not a big issue, the policy says that you can only get the funding once per fiscal year. So if they're paid out of 24-25, means they're not actually eligible to receive money until 25-26. It may not be an issue with these groups if they apply again next March, right? They'd be paid out in April. It may not be an issue.
Could we hold on to their application until then if they did?
That could be something we do as well. But the reality is some of these groups, there's no reason, I guess the application shouldn't have been in long before March, right? Because they're programs that operate, 2 of them operate probably in the fall, is when they do the registration. So they were late getting them in, type thing. So that's the I guess some of the other mechanics off this is that if they're approved out of 24-25, they're not eligible again to receive money till the following fiscal year.
Would it help if we changed the deadline and not have to deal with this problem if it was February 28th? And then we wouldn't have this issue?
We'll just reallocate the funds, and then we'll
Yeah,
deal with it last fiscal year.
You still, this year, you would have run into a budget crunch, like the $7,800 that went to Pictou County Minor Hockey ate up the budget. You would have been dealing with the same issue. Type thing.
Okay, so the motion is to reallocate it.
Reallocate from the other funds, yeah.
Go ahead, Mary Elliott, Counselor. I said that backwards.
I just wanted to know if the funds that you're speaking of will take from the recreation programs that are ahead of us yet.
This is this past fiscal year, so it shouldn't be anything else shouldn't be coming in for this past fiscal year. Go ahead, there'll be a new budget.
We don't have any money for this, correct?
There's 5,900 in other categories, grant categories available
So,
in last fiscal year. And 4465 is the amount of the request.
So move that pot of money into this pot of money. It's still all under the
even
recreation
though
umbrella.
they've missed, meaning they already got them the year before, so that rule don't matter. We're just gonna give them anyway, because I'm thinking Pictou County Minor Hockey's gonna come again and ask for their funds again, and they'll be entitled to them if we grant this. Is that correct?
Yeah, Pictou County Minor Hockey is irrelevant. They got their money
Yes.
in
You-
the fiscal
you s-
year, so they're okay.
You stated that you're only qualified for it once.
They were paid out of last fiscal year, so they're okay. They can get it again in
Gotcha.
24, 25.
Okay, perfect.
Warden Parker?
I guess the way I'm understanding it, there's some pots of money, there's pots that still have money in them from last year. That's the total of 5980. So I think the question Mary was asking, the way I understood it, was by using that money up, will that affect these groups, any other groups going forward until we have a budget? Or can they get new money, without us having a budget pass, still get money out of those pots if it was needed? Like if we emptied all of these pots, or as much as we need to, is there anybody gonna need money that it won't be available? 'cause
We would hold those, any new grant applications are held until you approve your budget.
Until we approve the budget anyway, so anybody applying for money now,
It's
even
basically held.
though there's money left in these pots, wouldn't
They're
get it.
held,
So this
yeah.
is money that was gonna be left, go into the general fund.
Technically, we shouldn't be approving anything from last year now at this point anyway. So, you're doing it retroactively.
That's why I made the comment, is it better to have a deadline of February, so we have that month of March to deal with these sort of things going forward?
These should have been, the reality is these grant applications should have been at your March meeting.
Yeah. So they were there in time.
That's the
Is
hard-
that on the, do we have a policy or for that, saying that it has to be in by a certain time for these groups? You know what I mean? Or it is just say March 31st?
It
by-
basically is,
in the fiscal
you
year.
deal with the applications when they come in. These were received in the last fiscal year, but weren't advanced. Because the original thing was they were gonna be paid, and then when the check was, verification was done on, against the budget didn't support $2,500.
Yeah, and that's,
Or
and that's why it's here.
4,400.
It's just because apparently Pictou County Minor Hockey has been asking for it or receiving it in the last couple of years, so she didn't include that in her budget, so
We basically budget based on,
previous years. And that's the thing, I don't think we should penalize these groups because of that.
No,
so.
absolutely not. Okay, let's call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have consideration of deferred business. Is there any consideration of deferred? That was moved by Counselor Wadden and seconded by Counselor Elliott. Any deferred business? Seeing none, motions of reconsideration. Any motions of reconsideration? Go ahead, Counselor Elliott.
Yeah, I didn't think that.
It was you, Counselor Palmer and Counselor Wadden. I lied. Sorry about that, Counselor Palmer, and apologize, Counselor Wadden.
Motion to reallocate and then pay?
Yes. Yes. Okay, with seeing no motions of reconsideration, I will call the meeting adjourned.